And we're live.
Oh, we are.
We welcome everybody to a brand new episode of Crush This. Kind of doing just a little something different. Just we were just started just talking and might as well just press record and live and see what happens. So a lot of stuff happened this last weekend, and as you can tell, we are all repping Bigfoot this episode. We have Mr. Eric Steinberg, driver for the Bigfoot team here, and again, like I said, last weekend, man, what a whirlwind weekend for monster trucks. Miami, Oklahoma. You had the Bigfoot open house. So many things. Cheech, you were at the Bigfoot open house. You hustled your ass back from California to make it in time for the event. How was
Yeah,
it, buddy?
buddy. Well, it was strenuous. Did during that week was at the did the hot seat display at Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then drove to Anaheim, California. Met a few people that left. Shout out to Jessica, Mike, and Trevor. They flew that. Trevor flew the day after, but they flew. I drove 31 miles. Me and Mankind, Drew Epler, he was a former employee for Bigfoot for a little bit. We picked him up. And we drove, got there Friday night at midnight. Got some rest and got picked up by Lonnie Childress. Thank you, Lonnie and Jason, for letting us park our rig there at their shop, Gateway Classic Mustangs. Go take a look at that stuff. That's freaking cool. Their Mustang work, and not just Mustangs only. They work on anything. A lot of Ford fans like Broncos and Torinos and stuff like that. They build all that stuff, help work out. So, and outside before the Bigfoot open house, so I'd like to say congratulations for our sponsor from Hall Brothers Racing, Ram. They just
Yes.
announced they're in NASCAR. They're going to be in NASCAR in 2026. Future may be holding up. Rumors are talking about Dodge getting into the later years. So that's exciting. They also debuted a brand new monster truck. Kurt's Rammunitions No More. Had a pretty long stint from 02 to 2025. And the truck's name is called Ramdemption. So Kurt will be rocking that truck. Also, a commercial came out that Sunday. Let Ram people know Ram's still going strong, and the two monster trucks, Ramdemption, and there was a black and gold Raminator truck. I'll be running that scheme Thursday at St. Charles. Hopefully, I see you there, Eric. Thursday night, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Power Sports Store in St. Charles, the Harley Davidson one. It's going to be a bike night, food, contest, and also I'll be doing 2 car crushes around 6:45, 7 o'clock, and then the other one at 8 p.m. So anyone in the St. Louis area that has nothing to do Thursday night, come out and hang out with me. Be the first public performance with the black and gold Raminator. So you go come out, check out that. And then I'll be racing the week after that at Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the Pittsburgh Motor Speedway. Monsters and Mega taking on Colton Kaiser in High Roller 3. The Virginia Giant, Crazy Train, Plain Crazy. Let me think who else. Hurricane Force, and he's debuting. He already debuted, but the support the military troop body that he put on a couple months, like last month. He did it for one event, but for the support for the troops body. And then we have 6 mega trucks there too. They'll be racing each other. So that's a Saturday night and a Sunday afternoon show. And hopefully see you folks there. But after that, so let me go back to the open house. We got there. I had a decent amount of sleep. I wasn't drained, but I put myself as a fan because I didn't RC race or anything like that. A lot of times when I go to the open house, I bring my RC trucks and I race. While that's going on a lot of times, there's stuff going on the crash zone. So I didn't want to do that. Numerous different Bigfoot projects, stories. 2 came back, 3 came back. I guess 0. There's a bunch of different stories that open up a can of worms on the history of what Bigfoot trucks were. I think a little bit people were surprised that the one technically isn't one, but the thing is like the evolution of Bigfoot came from that truck, which is technically one. So there's a bunch of different stories. I mean, it's how freaking cool, Eric, to see Gary Porter at the open house. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I know what Bob did for Gary back in '92 when Gene went over his truck in Nashville, and Bob bought him a brand new body to put on his truck. But after that, I mean, beforehand, he was really against him. But after that, that's one of the last people that I would think of seeing at the open house. I mean, I see Mike Welsh, Terry Woodcock. I bet you any money John Moore would have been there. Dan, I forget his last name, but he has the beast. He was there. I know there was a lot of Bigfoot legends, past and present. A lot of Bigfoot crew guys that were only there for like 2 years. I mean, but there was guys there that was there for almost 25 plus years. Seeing the gunslinger truck, that was news too. That I forget his name, but
Ricky Fowler.
He got the purchase. Gary Collins was there too. I want to give a shout before we go. Before my ADHD kicks in. Anyone watching? This guy, Chris, congratulations on the Monster Blog giveaway.
Yes.
Ross should be contacting you and giving you the address for all the Monster Blog merch that he has. Just be patient with them. They're just they're still hung over the Monster Blog celebration there in Miami. So just bear with them. But once again, congratulations, Chris, on winning that giveaway. And also, congratulations for all the people that picked Zach Garner. I know there was 10 people. I'm sorry if I didn't mention your names, but congratulations to you folks also for picking it. You guys picked the winner. So thank you again. But once again, I've been to the open house. I think this was number I think 3 or 4. I think this is because 2019 was my first time I went to the open house, and that was on my birthday. I think this is number 4. So I think I did 2019, 22, 23, and 24. I think so. No, maybe 3. Because I was at 19. When was Jim Kramer's last car crash?
23.
Yeah, I believe.
Okay, 23. So 23. So 22 and 23, then this one. But what an awesome experience, Brad. If you ever try to make the bucket list outside of going to the Hall of Fame, you gotta go to the Bigfoot Open House.
Oh, definitely. That, one of my good friends, Trenton Ray, was there, and some other people that I knew were there. I saw it all over Facebook, and it looks like an amazing time. It's sadly, this summer after World Finals, I was supposed to head east and do a road trip, and the plan was to go to Pacific and see the shop there and drive by the old shop in Hazelwood. That's always been a bucket list of mine to see both shops, but unfortunately not making my way back out east, going to do the West Coast for this trip. But it looked like it was an awesome time. And Eric, for you, how is the open house for you guys? Because, it's you guys have to plan it, get the trucks and everything ready for it. How much planning goes into doing the open house? Like from when you guys be like, okay, we got to start planning it to the execution. How long is that process usually?
Well, I mean, it definitely takes a while to actually get a solid plan in for whatever we were wanting to do. And we know we wanted to do something special, which was the body that Dan ran on 24. And even, kind of debuting 24 was at the open house this year. But it takes a lot of effort put in, not just from, Bob and Ann. I mean, shout out to them because they've made me definitely who I am today, and a lot of the other guys at the shop. But also, I mean, they put in a lot of effort into actually just coming up with something this big. We knew it was going to be definitely a bigger year Previous years, it's always been huge, but we were expecting like 10 times bigger this year because our fan base is definitely huge. And I think pretty much everybody that really followed it came out and saw it. So it was definitely awesome to be part of 50 years of Bigfoot now. And I can't thank them guys enough, and especially Dan Runny. He's the shop foreman pretty much, but he's like my second father pretty much. He taught me everything I knew about monster trucks, taught me how to drive, and I wouldn't be here today without him. So huge thank you to Dan Runny.
So when you do your planning and stuff like that, then you get did you volunteer to become the guy running the monster truck crash area, or someone just picked you?
So really, we had a plan and it didn't really work out. So when 24 came out with the new body, we wanted to keep it a secret. I didn't even know what the body was until everybody else did that day. I was the one that actually pulled 24 out of the shop with the cover on it and drove it to the field. And it was up to Scotty Danuser, our fabricator at the shop, and AJ Stropman. And anybody who knows Bigfoot, AJ's been around Bigfoot for a few years now, and he's one of the better guys we've had at Bigfoot throughout the years. And they were really the ones in charge of the track pretty much. I mean, they're the ones that kind of laid it out. They were the ones in charge of the radios and stuff like that. I kind of just saw how everything was being ran and figured they just needed an extra hand. So I kind of just went out there just to help out like all of us do at the shop. So whenever everything was going on, especially with 24, we had some issues with it that needed to be addressed right away so that Dan could do another car crush. And I kind of just went into full mechanic mode and kind of just went straight to work. It was muddy. It was rainy. The track conditions definitely were not in our favor that day, but everybody at Bigfoot kind of pulled through and we made it to where it was. So,
it's so cool seeing Dan, jump behind the seat again. And, especially in a brand new piece that you guys have, Bigfoot 24, which I believe was originally is a Patrick chassis, a PEI chassis. How was it getting him back in the seat and watching him drive? And, does he at times still have the itch, to drive competitively, or is he just kind of happy doing these one-off, drive every little while?
So really, going up to it, Dan's been talking about getting back in the seat for, random stuff every once in a while. He had his spurts of trying to get back in the truck and it just didn't line up or something like that. But I think from last year, since it was his celebration pretty much because they ran I think it was the Chrome Illusion and Power Wheel split body. He was wanting to do it, then something happened and he wasn't able to. And since we just got this new truck, we're still trying to do some testing and tuning, especially with the shocks and all that, being a truck that we never really had before. He wanted to make sure it was solid because we actually leave for Mexico sometime in June with that truck. So he's really just making sure that thing's dialed in for that stuff when it leaves. But, Dan, he's been out of the seat for a while and all that, and just talking to him a little bit, he was a little nervous. I mean, as everybody is, if you've been out of the truck for a while, you kind of feel like you're rusty and all that. And he's one of those guys that really takes things to heart, and he really likes pleasing his fans. So when the truck had a issue, he really took that to heart, and he felt like he was letting the fans down, which we all hated seeing because he put his blood, sweat, and tears into Bigfoot. And I saw that, and that's kind of what made sure that he was taken care of, mainly just because he would have done it for me. So I'm just trying to make sure that he was squared away and all that. But, I've actually never seen Dan drive or compete. Every time I've seen monster trucks, it was either at the Dome in St. Louis or at the fairgrounds here in my hometown of Washington. And it was really cool to finally get to check that off my bucket list of watching Dan drive, because nowadays I hear a lot of people somewhat compare me to his style of driving, and I could never relate to that because I've never seen him drive. But now being able to see him drive and all that, I can kind of see what people were talking about.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that never believed on the brake pedal. He came from that bloodstream of the Penda days.
Yep.
Gene Patterson talked about that. Mark Hall talks about that. If you talk to Fred Schaefer, he's the same way. It was just something about just not letting go of that gas pedal and trying to make it across the line before the other guy does. And the brake pedal was not the answer. It's just full gas. Him slap wheeling everything. And then later on in his career, proving to people that he was the toughest monster truck. The courses back then were not easy. They were stout. They were steep. Dan had his few share of rollovers, but he ran to a point where he was just people may be just a little bit upset with me about this, but he was just a side bit ahead of Larry. Larry had his moments, but Dan was still the flagship guy before he left. And don't get me wrong, Larry kicks butt, takes names, one of the best. But it's just he's just a tad bit above Larry, but it is what it is. But Larry showed also the improved that Bigfoot could have an edge, Bigfoot could have an attitude, and then that brings up Josh Gibson and that whole that, and then bring out you. AJ was the same thing too. There was a lot of good drivers that could pop their head once in a while going, I can make the high rider wheel if you want me to, but I really don't need to.
Right.
The saying goes is like when there was 5 greyhounds and 1 cheetah, and the greyhounds took off and the cheetah just stayed there, and the person's like, why is that cheetah staying there? It's like, well, the cheetah doesn't need to know when it wants to go. It doesn't need to. It knows it can outrun all that animals. It just wanted to chill. And I think a lot of the Bigfoot drivers are kind of like that, where they have that 6 gun in their back pocket. They have that ace in their pocket. They just don't need to bring it out all the time.
Right. And
especially the situation that you guys are in.
Yeah. And Dan, he, like you say, in the Penda days, I mean, he was the young and comer pretty much in that stuff, And I believe he started driving in 89. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he was the underdog almost in that stuff. He was the new guy on the block, and then he showed what he was. And a lot of people respect him for that, but we're also scared of him because of how good he was. And my style of driving, I take a lot of inspiration from that because, you don't want to show people everything that you can do once and then they just expect that from you all the time. It's more of a marathon, not a sprint, is what we call it. So it's definitely trying to get through the weekend, but give people what it's worth, show them what monster trucks can actually do. And Dan, when he went into toughest, I mean, he was the guy to beat. I mean, he showed everybody how easy he can drive. But he wasn't
in a row, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And he, he never really made a sweat at it. That was the thing, is that it was just a cakewalk for him in the way. And, don't get me wrong, all those other drivers at the time in toughest were great drivers. They were phenomenal. But when it came down to the technicality of it, Dan had it down to a T. And that's what eventually gave him all those wins, was he knew how to drive, and especially on every track, every city he went to. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to the most, is just trying to do what he did back in the day, just in modern times.
But here's a situation, though. He did a lot of he proved that there's something to do with Bigfoot 18. That truck, that was a heavy son of a gun, but it seemed like if anyone's behind the wheel, that truck would take care of you. It seemed tough. It was good. And you had to push it a little bit. But you drove, 18, but 21, seemed like it was just ahead of its time before it left the door of the shop. And it seemed like you have to try so hard to make the truck look like it's fumbling. Because if you're not trying so hard, the truck just reminds me of a very good RC truck that you can launch it 20 feet up in the air or 25 feet up in the air, and it just lands and sticks like glue, and you just continue on. So, two really good trucks, but I could see, Rente towards the end of this time with, as a full-time driver, it seemed like with 21, he wanted to, I think 21, even if you wanted to take a step back, the truck will still make you look good. While 18, though, I think was a better match with Rente, because when Rente wanted to show his ace, 18's like, okay, let's go. I'm down with it.
For sure. And
was that kind of like how you felt with those two trucks?
So when I first started driving back in 22, 21 was the first truck I ever drove. And so it was easier for me to get a handle of that truck because I haven't driven anything else. I never had anything to compare it to. I just kind of had a feel for that truck. And then it was probably the summertime I got moved into 18. And Dan especially, he told me, drive it like 21. It's going to do the same thing. I drove 18 once. I was like, man, these things are not alike. I mean, they share the same parts and same shocks and everything like that, but you had to drive it differently to get something out of it. 18s to me, when I was driving it, it was definitely more of a wheelie truck and a freestyle truck. And 21 was the race truck. Yeah, you can go out there and you can bonsai the biggest jumps out there, like in Charlotte with 21, and you won't feel a thing on the landing. But that's what it was designed for. It was designed for tracks like that. And, seeing 21 now in these Hot Wheels shows, it's almost overkill for that stuff, because when I'm out there driving, it's almost effortless, and it from what I've been told, it looks boring when I'm driving because it's soaking everything up. There's really isn't a ragged edge to it anymore in that truck. It's taking care of me so well that the truck's just taking everything I give it. And at the time, after the freestyle and Hot Wheels, I'm not even breaking a sweat because it just works so well. So hopefully I could get to maybe air that thing out a couple times this year or next year or something like that, maybe something bigger. But yeah, I mean, and then I went to 19 in between 18 and 21, and that truck being the CRD, it was definitely the more ragged edge truck because it was a lot stiffer. The shocks were a different program, but I had a lot of fun in 19 too because it gave that ragged edge vibe to it. And the freestyles I loved doing in that truck just because the way it acted. Every turn I went into, it hiked it up on two wheels, and you can make something out of it if you wanted to, or you can put it back down on the ground or something like that. It gave you more opportunities. In 21, you, like you said, you have to kind of force it every once in a while to get to do something.
Well, how about the V-Cradle trucks? I'm sorry, Brad.
Oh, go ahead,
you get a chance to drive a V-Cradle one?
So I've yet to drive 14 or 15. Those I kind of got not just thrown to the wolves, but the luck of the draw pretty much because I got put straight into the best truck we had at the time. And in my opinion, it's still the best truck we have. Just if we were to use it in different applications, like if we were to do toughest again, or even if we were doing stuff in like Miami and Map Motorsports or something like that, that's what that truck was designed to do. And so, like I said before, it's almost overkill for these Hot Wheel shows.
So, two kind of things I wanted to mention. One about the Dan Runty thing. You look at when Dan was coming up, look at the guys he had training him, Andy Brass. He was teammates with Gene. He was being trained by the Jim Kramer. He was around. I think he was still around when Rich Hoosier was with Foot and stuff like that, I believe. So you look at the guys that he had and who he was going up against, you know, in his early days of driving, and you know, it made him such a smooth driver, and that in a way kind of transitions. You also mentioned Larry Swim, and you know, Bigfoot 19, which is the CRD chassis, I believe. That I feel like the CRD chassis fit him better than any of the other foot trucks he was in because of that ragged edge style. That's the one thing I loved about Larry when he came over to Bigfoot. He brought that ragged edge style. Bigfoot up until that point, in my opinion, was known for being super smooth, consistent. You know that just no matter what, if the Bigfoot's at a show, you're gonna see smooth and just an awesome run. But when you bring Larry to the mix, especially when you started driving the bad boy trucks and then moving into 19, he had that ragged edge, like don't give a crap style. Like look at the stuff he did in Chico with Monster X Tour against Bill Payne and Donald Ependendio. That like I loved Larry's driving style because of that. It brought that edge to Bigfoot that I thought was needed at the time.
Yeah, you know, Larry, that was actually the first seat I ever used was Larry's old seat. And it was cool to be part of that too, just sharing a little bit of history with Larry. But like you said, you know, like 2013, I think Chico, that was a really big show to me because I remember watching that on the Monster Blog YouTube page all the time because that's, like you said, Larry had the ragged edge in that show, and so did Bill Payne and Donald Ependendio at the time. And Donald's one of my favorite drivers too. And it was cool to see the three of them go out there and battle each other out at just a simple speedway show. I mean, that's what was cool to me. And seeing Larry and how he drove 21, Larry put 21 through the ringer. I mean, he sent that truck up in toughest shows. And I think some of the biggest highlights he had was in Grand Forks for pretty much toughest world finals, if you want to call it. But yeah, Larry put on a clinic in that truck too, just like Dan did. But Dan was more technical. Larry was the ragged edge freestyler guy. So, and don't get me wrong, Larry can drive in racing. I think Dan was more of the racer. Larry was the freestyler.
So let's go. Let's talk about a little bit of the 50th anniversary. You're there, you're helping out, but the atmosphere and everything like that. Take us what you thought the open house was like to you.
So I actually missed out on the open house last year, and that was one that I really wanted to go to just because it was for Dan's celebration. I respect Dan as an individual, but also what he did within the industry. So it was kind of a relief that I was off this weekend for the open house because I just wanted to make sure that I was part of it, you know. And I think a lot of the other Bigfoot team members wanted to be a part of it as well. So we tried to make sure everybody was present during that time. But you know, going into it, I was actually coming straight from Miami. I went down there Friday night to see that stuff, and when Danny, the photographer for Monster Blog, he sent me down there because I've never seen it, wanted to go see it, never really had time, and finally got to do it. Thank you to him. And then went straight to the open house pretty much. So I was running on fumes pretty much going into it, but the atmosphere of when I showed up was incredible because there was so much history just either within the shop or actually surrounding the shop, like you said. I mean, we just got a whole new lot put in behind us, brand new fresh pavement and all that. And it was really nice because that's actually the company that was supplying the teleprompters or the jumbotrons for us too, playing all the videos and stuff like that. So once we got the trucks out, everybody was kind of in their spots and all that, and the crowd started filling in. It kind of put my mind in a different perspective of how big Bigfoot is and what it means to people. You know, I never really grew up around Bigfoot. Bigfoot, of course, was a Missouri truck, but I never really got to see it compete in person and all that. So I never followed it as much growing up. But now that I've been with Bigfoot for about, I believe, 4 years now, it's been incredible. I mean, even going out on the road and seeing all the people out on different cities and what Bigfoot meant to them, it was awesome to hear their stories and what it was like for when they were kids too. So, you know, and like we said before, the weather definitely was not on our side. It wasn't that whole week. You know, we had the track prepped up and it rained pretty much from Wednesday through the whole weekend. So the track was definitely sloppy. It was muddy. But everybody that drove at the open house did a very good job with keeping it in control, but yet giving it the show aspect of, you know, Bigfoot. And even Colton Kaiser. I mean, he's a young up and comer with the new high roller truck, and he did amazing. I wish I could see his runs more often too. I mean, it's very cool to see.
You know, one thing that you said, you know, the reach of Bigfoot, you know, and I remember the first time I got to see a Bigfoot truck in person, I just, it flashed me back to that moment. It was here where I live in Grand Prairie, Alberta. It was for the mud bogs, and it was the Bigfoot Cyclone body with Keith Sturgeon driving. I think it was, I think that it was either 14 or 15 was the chassis for that. But I still remember like seeing the name Bigfoot in person and just hearing, you know, especially the exhaust that you guys ran at that time, and just to be like, man, I'm finally I'm seeing it at a Bigfoot truck. And by the way, Bigfoot, Bob Chen, if you're watching, bring back the Cyclone paint scheme, please, just once. That is I feel like it's the most underrated Bigfoot scheme of all time. And even that body, I'm sorry, I love that design. But even just like the other times where I've interacted, you know, with, you know, when Kevin Kazala was driving for Bigfoot, you know, Rick Long and the other people I've gotten to meet, like everybody that has the, you know, that drives for Bigfoot have driven, they show up 100%, you know, and represent the name well. And I feel like, and you're doing that same thing running with the Hot Wheels tour and with your driving. Like I've been following yourself, Eric, for a few years in the Hot Wheels tour, and I can't wait to see what you can do in some of these more open areas, because I know as soon as you get the chance, you're going to send that truck to the moon.
Yeah, you know, that's kind of what I remember growing up and watching. You know, of course, everybody has different trucks and drivers of when they were kids and all that. You know, I never got to see how Bigfoot really started, like with number 1 or even like number 4, number 8, because number 8 was ahead of its time. And that's kind of how I see 21 as a reminiscent of number 8. But with all things said, I just want to go out there and make sure the fans go home happy, because, you know, there's weekends where the truck might not be 100%, but you want to make sure that everybody is satisfied within the weekend. And I try to do that at most of these Hot Wheels shows. So I accommodated to where instead of bonsaiing every hit, you make it through the first 3 rounds. And when I make sure the truck's ready to go during intermission, freestyle is definitely where I try to execute my driving. You know, you don't have to go out there and hit the jumps big every time, but the van stack, I mean, it's there for a reason, and you make sure you clear that van stack pretty much, because that's what the people really want to see is big air. And from what I can tell, the momentum aspect of it, because a lot of these arenas, they're small and they're really tight, and a lot of trucks have issues maneuvering through those smaller buildings. But I think I kind of know how 21 operates now, driving it for, I guess, the last 2 years now. And we've kind of built a relationship together where I know how it acts. I know how it takes the turns and when to use the throttle, when not to use the throttle. And I try to not use the brakes at all, because, yeah, you want to be able to be in control and all that. But if you can drive the truck without having to use the brakes and still make it look good, then you really executed a great run.
I bet. You know, like especially those concrete floor shows where the floor is not giving you any slouch. It's basically sliding you all over the place, and you have to use momentum and go on doing that whole show deal. You know, the people may not know if they go to a Hot Wheels Monster Truck Live, it's a fun show. I mean, you have the Titan Cup, but it's a marketing deal. They're trying to market their product, and Bigfoot's one of their products that they're marketing, and they're trying to get fans to buy their stuff. So really, that's pretty much it. But still, I mean, the atmosphere. There's tons of good monster truck teams that tour around the country with you guys, and you're going to places that are, you know, Bigfoot hasn't been to for almost, gosh, very some areas like almost 18, 19, 20 years ago. So representing all those people and stuff like that, doing what you need to do, is pretty cool with the Hot Wheels Monster Truck Live. But it seems like the open house, though, brings somewhat of the nostalgia of the past of Team Bigfoot to the masses, of knowing that they can still send it 15, 20 feet up in the air just using a set of cars, van stack. And I know you have done a lot of exhibition car crashes or exhibition shows at the open house. Do you get, like, when you circled that date and knowing that you'll be there, do you kind of go like this, like, okay, maybe I'll get to drive this time around? Because, I mean, granted, this year would have been a bummer, but it gave you some good mud time. But, the mud was kind of a bummer. But just go back to the original question is, do you guys circle that event on your calendar?
Oh, definitely. Pacific is only about 30 minutes from my hometown, so really I almost treat it like my hometown show, because you kind of want your family there. You want to see what you've been up to for the last couple of years and what you accomplished within my dream, especially. But my family came out and they were always asking me, "Are you driving? Are you driving?" I'm like, "Nah, I don't think it's this year. They've already got some trucks picked out and all that." But there was a chance that I could have driven this one, but we got 24 back together, so we made sure that Dan completed his journey into the open house and made sure he was satisfied, which I think he was very satisfied towards the end of it. But that's all it's all about, is just being there for the fans, and my family definitely saw that. I didn't really get to spend that much time with them, but they saw what I was doing out on the track and where I was, heading. So they kind of understood what was needing to be done at the time, and they kind of just made sure that I was okay and that I was still having fun with it.
And I think that's the most important part. Like I've gotten to do a Monster X tour show, just like helping out, crewing locally here. My parents got to come out to the show and watch me do what I love to do when I get the chance. One cool thing we talked about a little bit about the Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Live. A big thing is that they're heading to Stafford Springs, which for many years was a Monster Jam only event, and now, it seems like they did the Tacoma Dome. They've done the Costa Rica, was it 2 or 3 months ago, I believe. And now they're doing Stafford, which is huge for them. Talk about the growth of the Hot Wheels tour and getting to do, Stafford, like I said, which was for many years predominantly a Monster Jam event.
Yeah, last year being when we started doing a lot of the bigger stuff, the Tacoma Dome in Washington State, we had a lot of expectations going into that, and I think they achieved it and perfected it in their own standards fairly well. The biggest misconception that Hot Wheels gets is that it's essentially Monster Jam. You get a lot of kids that come from Monster Jam and they're expecting the backflips, they're expecting Gravedigger or the big crashes and stuff like that. But that's not really what we're targeting. We're just targeting what monster trucks are capable of and what they were really built for. So they pretty much took the old Thunder Nationals vibe and turned it into something a little more family friendly. So the kids definitely seem to be enjoying it. The parents, for the most part, seem like they're enjoying it fairly well. We expect, hopefully everybody comes back next year and supports Hot Wheels. But, going actually this weekend into Stafford, I'm leaving tomorrow in the rig to head out that way. And definitely some different expectations to be out there too with the fans. They see this as the first outdoors Hot Wheels show. and they're expecting it to be bigger than what we've been doing. And hopefully we can deliver that to them. Looks like the weather might not be in our favor this time around this weekend either in Stafford, but we're not going to let that slow us down. I want to make sure that the Bigfoot fans go home happy up there, because that's all I try to do for them. And even if it's outdoors, hopefully we can get some bigger air.
It's kind of interesting how the last Monster Jam event Bigfoot did was Stanford Springs in 1998. And now the first show that's not involving Monster Jam, Bigfoot's part of, which is kind of crazy to think about because of the history of Stafford Springs. You see all most of the highlight reels from the early 2010s, late 2000s, like Monster Energy and Max D. You see them just making highlight reels in this racetrack where it's sitting in the middle of a residential area. When you get to the racetrack, there's houses all over the place, and then you turn and boom, there's the racetrack. But it's been a local area and a hot spot and everything like that. Yeah. I want to give a shout out to Hobo, who was the announcer, and he bust out Hotsy puns throughout the whole event. So
Habo's awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait to eventually meet that guy. The positivity that man has brought into monster trucks, and because he's predominantly a BMX guy, but like the stuff he does with Toughest, and he also let our buddy Mark Werner do some announcing at the open house.
Yeah.
That dude, one of the coolest dudes in monster trucks, in my opinion. I just had to put that out there.
But the atmosphere of that event, it's a mystery just to know what they're going to do, because the platform or the cards that Hot Wheels kind of handles is arena only. I think that's something with Tacoma where they had like 2 shows in one or something like that, where one side of the track would do the car crushing and all that stuff. So I'm kind of curious on seeing that, but knowing that you're representing the Big Blue Ford at Stafford Springs, the last time I was there in 1998, for you being a fan, that got to be a humbling experience.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely, hopefully it's going to be a good show, whether it's time, but there's definitely still fan base out there. And like you said, the last show we did out there was 98 or 99 or somewhere around there. And that's the last time they ever got to see Bigfoot. So for me to bring it back out, it's kind of another mark off my bucket list, because you go to these places and they keep telling me they haven't seen Bigfoot in either 3 years, 5 years, 10 or 20 years. So you want to make sure that the way they see Bigfoot from then till now hasn't changed or has gotten better than what they've seen in the past. So I'm going to try to make it a statement out there that, Bigfoot's still around, because that's another misconception we get, is that a lot of people come up to me and goes, I thought, you guys kind of retired. I thought you guys kind of went away. Didn't realize y'all were still out racing or anything like that. And that, whenever I first started driving, was kind of so much a slap in the face a little bit, because I'm like, Bigfoot was known to be the truck. I mean, it's the one that's supposed to go out there and be on top of everybody. But, I'm going to try to go out there and make sure the fans just go home happy. That's everything I try to do nowadays, is that, there's a couple people that don't like my driving style. There's a couple people that wish I went bigger or something like that. But really, for me, as long as they're happy, I'm happy.
Well, and you're going to be in an outdoor venue, so you're going to be able to open up a little bit more than you have. And one thing that I wanted to ask you, I've gotten to sit in number 14 when Kyle Doyle brought it up here to do a mud bog exhibition. I got to hang out with him. Shout out to Kyle Doyle. Shout out to OSMT. Those guys are killing it with some of the stuff they've been releasing. I love it. But the rear steer setup in your guys' trucks is different, and same as the Halls. Like, I remember when you showed me your truck, Cheech, when I was at your guys' shop. It's a very different setup. Talk about, was it hard to get used to, because usually and everybody knows in company trucks or some other independent trucks, you have your steering wheel, but then you have your rear steer right there. Your guys is with Bigfoot is down right with the shifter. How different was that, having to get adjusted to one hand up here, one hand way down here?
So a lot of the old trucks, that's how it was set up, with the rear steer toggle actually on the shifter. And we kind of actually went away with that around when 15 got reintroduced, or kind of down the road, it got put back into where it's the actual handle with the toggle switch and all that stuff. So when I went into 21, really that was the first monster truck I ever driven. So for me, it was just learning their setup, and that was it. Even the new truck 24, it's our rear steer setup. It's not Patrick's, or it's not, what you see in normal company trucks with the toggle switch and the self-center toggle and all that stuff. It's our setup. So really, it's kind of just dummied to our drivers, really. I mean, it's a simple setup, left to go left, right to go right, and then we got the self-centering button too. I drive all manual, so for me, I'm always in control of the truck. I personally like it best doing it that way, because I feel like I'm more in control of the truck per se, versus having the auto center put in the truck and it doing it for you. So to me, my driving technique's a little bit different, because I like to kind of crab and drift in turns or in straights and stuff like that. To me, going straight isn't really cool, because it's kind of that ragged edge that people like to see. But it's definitely different if you've driven something else, especially if you're used to the whole different toggle setup and stuff like that. But for me, it was just learning a system I haven't really known before, and just kind of being acclimated to that setup.
So yeah, I'm used to driving the truck with the auto center, just because to me, I feel like it's quick. Even though you start off the ride truck, and ride truck's all manual, I don't know. It's just I feel like inside the race truck, everything happens so fast, and with the ride truck, yeah, it teaches you the height and the idea, but it's different between that and fully strapping in a containment seat and then try to do what you need to do. A lot of times when I drive, like the truck moving into trailers and stuff, I'll drive manual, because it's easier not to burn up the pump. So it's a little different, but everyone has their ways, and I think it's kind of cool that you run manual, because I think that's a little bit of a lower SAR for him. But you like I said, with the season that you're having and the growth. We were at the Bigfoot shop last time I was there. There was only one building. Now you got one on across the field. I don't know what the other two buildings, but the other two buildings in the back, they helped out. But how cool was it also seeing all the people bringing back the trucks? Like, I know Bigfoot 4 brought the snakebite body out last year, but it still represented the Bigfoot 4 truck for this year and represented snakebite. But seeing what Terry Woodcock did with all the stuff in the Wildfoot, how cool is seeing all these people also relying on the Bigfoot open house for exposure, like the Gunslinger truck debuting, with its new owner at your guys' shop. You see the old school guys, shout out to Earthquake, and all the guys that run, the old school monster truck stuff. How cool is that?
Oh, it's really cool, because, like I said before, I never really grew up with the older stuff. So to me, my modern monster truck is a tube chassis. And then I got there Saturday morning. I'm like, wow, there's some old monster trucks, but it's old, history. It's what we've kind of created monster trucks today. So for me, like last year, I wasn't there. That's when they kind of debuted the retro red snakebite body on number 4. And just the pictures I saw of it, Lonnie and those guys knocked it out of the park with that body. I'm a huge snakebite fan, even probably more than Bigfoot itself. But that's the truck I remember growing up and watching, was the snakebite truck. So finally being able to see it in person, I mean, it made my childhood come true. And then Wildfoot, that's a truck that not a whole lot of people know about, but it's definitely a more popular Bigfoot truck to say. We definitely get a lot of requests to bring out a lot more Wildfoot merchandise, but I'm surprised we haven't done that yet. But Terry, from what I could tell, knocked it out of the park with that body too. I know a lot of people didn't really like that it was on the 79 body, but to me, the paintwork and all that, it made it look great. I love the fastback on it, looked great. And other than that, all the old school guys bringing out, the first monster trucks, the first Bigfoot monster trucks, even seeing the tank for the first time in person too. I mean, that was awesome to see as well.
Just gonna
Yeah, hey guys, I'm gonna let you go. Sorry, Eric, I'm gonna pull off here. Gonna grab some dinner. But thank you guys so much. I'm gonna step foot, and next week, want to let you go. Next week, Mark Warner is gonna have Jack Brady on, and the week after that is Bill Bufka, so crew member of Bigfoot for some time now. He will be on. So, once again, folks, thank you. And have a good one, guys.
Yeah, we're gonna still continue. Cheech is just you can tell he's not feeling the greatest, so feel better, Cheech. But you mentioned a lot of the old school, Terry Woodcock. The amount of stuff that man brought out to the open house, it boggles my mind, like how he's able to bring, and especially like bringing basically the chassis, the original, I think it was the original frame and cab of number one, like the numbers matching. I think that was pretty cool to see because, and then they had I think it was another number one ish kind of clone. And then Eli Mann brought out his number 3, the Bigfoot 3 that he's restoring. So seeing all those trucks, like, it's so cool.
Yeah. So like I said before, I never grew up with the older trucks. So for me, that part of the history is a little fuzzy to me. But being able to learn a little bit of that history was cool too. I mean, I wanted to learn more about the different Bigfoots we've had throughout the 50 years that we've been around, and being able to go to the open house and see all that stuff just sitting in one spot all together was kind of just a childhood dream for a lot of the Bigfoot fans. And it was great to see that a lot of fans interacted with those guys, not just with the Bigfoot team, but the guys that made that stuff happen as well. So, like I said, Snakebite, I love Snakebite. It was great seeing that in person. The Wildfoot body looked amazing to me. I personally wish we could run a Wildfoot body, but I know it's probably not in the cards right now. But hopefully, definitely in the future, running a Snakebite would be just another bucket list check for me.
Now, with the Snakebite thing, here's the real question: red or green? I, for one, would love to see the green one come back. The red is classic and everything, but the green, I think, was such a cool look for that truck.
Yeah, I love the look of the retro red because that's kind of where it all started. But even all the other concepts up until when Snakebite kind of went away, they were really all my favorite. I mean, there wasn't really one that ever stuck out more to me. I just liked the different schemes that was able to come out on just such a simple body of a snake concept. So I love the Mash Driver too. I always thought that was cool. Even when like Monster Jam brought out Doomsday, that to me it was such a basic truck, all black with a little red light on it, but it was so menacing to me that I really liked it. And I think that's what really sold it for me with Snakebite was that, yeah, you knew who Ricky Radler was driving, but did you really know who was actually driving the truck or the Colt Cobra? Which Colt Cobra was it, or any of those guys? You never really knew who was driving the truck, but I think you knew from who was actually driving it.
Well, I remember, and everybody knows who Colt Cobra is. It's not a secret, but most of us pure monster truck fans like to keep it kayfabe. Using some wrestling terms. And I'll just say, we had Gene on as Colt. That was the funnest episode ever because, like, just the amount of crap talking that he pulled off, like. And I started the episode normally, and then I busted out this shirt halfway through. He's like, no. It like Gene is one of those guys that like he's just become such a good friend over the internet and doing this podcast. Like, talk about just how awesome Gene is. Like, Gene is such just a humble dude. He's down to earth. Like, what's it like being around him and just your experiences with the man?
Yeah, so really, I never truly met Gene in a way. Yeah, he was always around the shop. I kind of shook his hand, said, "Hey, what's up?" and all that. But really, I never got to personally sit down and talk with Gene much. A lot of the old school guys I never really got to sit down much. But I've got to meet a couple of the like Eric Tech. I got to meet a couple years ago. Dan, like I said, I meet him every day pretty much. He's the same dude every day. He's awesome. But the whole Coke Cobra thing, for some reason, just kind of filled that void in me that, it was awesome to have a match driver. And he played the character
Oh yeah.
extremely well. And I think a lot of the other drivers did too. I know when Dan was driving and he was Ricky Radler, he didn't really talk much. He didn't really have to. You just knew that he was the snake bite driver just because his appearance.
Yeah.
And to me, that's kind of what I like seeing. You don't have to talk the talk. It's more of, can you walk the walk? And I
Exactly.
think that's kind of what snakebite was. They, of course, they never really had very popular runs per se, but the character development of that truck and the driver himself, I think, is what sold it for a lot of fans.
Well, and especially, when Gene was driving number 4, with the snake bite, in those early Penda days, because that's the era that I grew up in. And like, he just he had that. He could have been a pro wrestler in another life, I swear to God, with the charisma and how much he believed the gimmick. I think that was an important thing. Like, he truly thought he was Colt Cobra. And he brought that realism to life. And we saw that later years. You mentioned, Dan with Ricky Rattler. We've seen Sid Sidewinder. Josh Gibson played. I forget what was Vinny Venom. I think.
Vinny Venom. That was
Yeah.
another one that I really liked. Josh, from what I understood, he was pretty quiet, but he was the one that played the character and he walked the walk. I mean, he put a clinic just like what Larry would do in 21. He was doing in 18 a snake bite. So it was cool to kind of see him become that persona as well. And it sucks that it kind of went away as quick as it did. I really wish that snakebite could have hung around a little bit more so I could be a part of it. Not saying it's not going to happen in the future, but who knows? It's all about the playing cards, pretty much.
And I think one of the best parts about the whole, snake by Bigfoot rivalry was the VHS tapes that they made through Mattel, and just how cheesy those were. Them having to pitch Andy Brass's voice down because of just how ridiculous it sounded. Like, I loved that era because, like, that, especially the early 90s of monster trucks, because anything goes. It just, the stupidest ideas. Oh, let's do them. It's
Yeah.
like it's like let's do a little bit of, and then here's another idea. That's how the 90s were. One of my last questions, Rich Blackburn was asking it here. What is going on with Bigfoot number 22, which is the ride truck that you guys were working on? What's going on with that?
So that one kind of got put on the back burner a little bit. As many people know, or they don't know what 22 is, it's the ride truck that Bigfoot's trying to come out with. We have the parts for it. We actually had to take the axles out of it and put it under 19, back under 19, because that's the truck it came out of, and use them for overseas, because 19 and 23 are doing all the European stuff, and they're going to Australia and New Zealand. So really, whenever Hot Wheels kind of decided to take off more overseas, that truck kind of got put on the back burner a little bit, and that's when we started getting 23 and 24 and maybe 25. I don't know if that's in the works yet or not, but yeah, it's kind of just, we're all focused on trying to make sure the competition trucks are all ready to go. Our fabricator is no longer really a fabricator. He's more of a lead mechanic. So he's got some time to work on it here and there, but he's really needed elsewhere. So we haven't scrapped it. It's not completely scrapped. It's sitting in the back. We have a 7.3 Godzilla motor stuck in it right now. It's not plumbed or anything like that. It's got pretty much the same body as what number 8 has on it. Maybe a safari foot, maybe concept.
I was thinking about that as you were saying it, and the Godzilla motor. What you got to do, Eric, is sneak on a good old Whipple supercharger on that thing, and then it'd be a fun truck.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the biggest thing too is, like, you've seen it everywhere. Being understaffed kind of put a hint to a lot of that stuff, because we're actually really looking for a lot more help and a lot more crew guys to become drivers too and drive the rigs and help us out. So really, we never really had a set person for the ride truck. So that was kind of another reason why it got pushed back a little bit. But never say never. I'm sure it'll get done eventually. It's just kind of a waiting game as of right now for whenever we get some downtime to actually finish it.
Well, Eric, thank you for coming on the show. It's awesome to be able to talk with you. Hopefully I'll be able to meet you at some point. I know for me, living up in northern Canada kind of sucks for monster truck shows. We don't get a lot up here. But is there any social media that people can follow you on? And then I know that you're doing Stafford Springs, and when is that show? So if people are around that area, they can come check that out.
Yeah, so we're actually there in Stafford Springs, Connecticut this weekend. We got 2 shows, Saturday and Sunday. Pretty much come out, check us out. I haven't really done a whole lot of social media. I've been meaning to. Just kind of hard trying to take care of everything and then post something about it. So I might be trying to start my own here soon. But check me out on Instagram, dat rookie MT guy. I'm on Facebook too. Might not post a whole lot, but I'm always down to chat and all that stuff too.
Well, Eric, thank you for coming on. It was awesome. Guys, next week we have our buddy Mark Werner with his episode with, I believe, Chisa Jack Brady. And guys, it is also Men's Mental Health Month. On this show for many years, we have always promoted mental health awareness. If you're struggling, going through anything, please reach out to somebody. It'll help save their lives and your life. We don't want to lose you. Stay strong, even though things are tough right now in the world. The thing that we all love is monster trucks. So watch more monster trucks. I know I do that when I'm sad or having a crappy day. I'll put on some monster trucks. Just ask my wife. She gets upset with me how much I watch monster trucks. But hey, it's what I've loved ever since I was a little kid. But guys, until next week, since day one, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up, everybody. Peace.